Hello, what's going on, Gracians? Welcome back to another episode of The Scientific Mind. Today, we are going to talk about photosynthesis and the plant's structure responsible for the photosynthesis. But before we proceed with our discussion, let's first ask a guidance from the Lord. So without wasting any more time, let's start this episode. Flow of energy and matter in ecosystem. Almost all plants are photosynthetic autotrophs and some are bacteria and protists. Autotrophs generate their own organic matter through photosynthesis. Sunlight is transformed to energy stored in the form of chemical bonds. Organisms that are capable of photosynthesis are mosses, ferns, flowering plants, kelp, euglena, and cyanobacteria. Overview of photosynthesis. Plants are great food providers. Photosynthesis is a process of food making done by plants and other autotrophic organisms. The presence of chlorophyll enables these organisms to make their own food. Autotrophic organisms require light energy, carbon dioxide, and water to make food in the form of sugar. The word photosynthesis derived from the two words photo, which means light, and synthesis, which means putting together separate things to form a whole. Thus, photosynthesis is the process of making or putting together some substances using light energy. The process is summed up in the following equation. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water plus the light energy transformed into 1 molecules of sugar or glucose plus 6 molecules of oxygen gas. During photosynthesis, light reaction converts solar energy to chemical energy to produce ATP or adenosine triphosphate and NADPH or reduced nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. The Calvin cycle makes sugar from carbon dioxide. ATP is generated by the light reactions provide the energy for sugar synthesis. The NADPH produced by the light reaction provides the electrons for the reduction of carbon dioxide to glucose. There are two types of photosynthesis, the oxygenic photosynthesis and anoxygenic photosynthesis. The general principles of anoxygenic and oxygenic photosynthesis are very similar, but oxygenic photosynthesis is the most common and is seen in plants, algae, and cyanobacteria. Oxygenic photosynthesis. Light energy transfer electrons from water to carbon dioxide to produce carbohydrates. So this is the basic equation of the photosynthesis. In this transfer, carbon dioxide is reduced or receive electrons and water becomes oxidized or loses electrons. Ultimately, oxygen is produced along with carbon dioxide. Reintroducing oxygenic photosynthesis function as a counterbalance to respiration. By taking in the carbon dioxide, produced by all breathing organisms, and process typically occurs in bacteria such as purple bacteria and green sulfur bacteria, which are primarily found in various aquatic habitats. Anoxygenic photosynthesis does not produce oxygen, hence the name, said David Baum, a professor of botany at University of Wisconsin-Madison. What is produced depends on the electron donor. For example, many bacteria use bad egg-smelling gas, hydrogen sulfide, producing solid sulfur as a byproduct. Various anoxygenic photosynthesis reactions can be represented as a single generalized formula. Carbon dioxide plus 2 molecules of histone plus energy will produce 1 molecule of formaldehyde and 1 molecule of water. Process of photosynthesis. Think about it. Why do chloroplasts contain so many membranes? When most pigments absorb light, they eventually lose most of that energy as heat. Chloroplasts avoid such losses. Membranes are the key to capturing light energy in the form of high-energy electrons. Photosynthesis have 3 stages, each of which is discussed as follows. Stage 1. Capturing light energy. To understand the process of photosynthesis, you should know some basic facts about light. Light is a form of energy or electromagnetic radiation that is transferred by waves. When sunlight strikes your body, it is bombarded by all types of radiation coming from the sun. Do you know why most plants are green? It is because most of them contain chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a kind of pigment that does not absorb green light. A plant may have different pigments of different absorption spectrum, but it must have chlorophyll, the primary pigment used in photosynthesis, since all other pigments are only accessory pigments. Chlorophyll traps and absorbs light energy from the sun and uses it to power the chemical reactions of photosynthesis. There are various chlorophyll pigments in plants. Pigments, they are molecules that bestow color on plants, algae, and bacteria, but they are also responsible for effectively trapping sunlight. Pigments of different colors absorb different wavelengths of light. There are main groups of, first, chlorophylls. Chlorophylls are green-colored pigments capable of trapping blue and red light. Chlorophylls have 3 subtypes dubbed as chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and chlorophyll C. Chlorophyll A is found in all photosynthesizing plants. Next group is carotenoids. These are red, orange, or yellow colored pigments that absorbs bluish green light. Example of carotenoids are xanthophyll, yellow, and carotene or orange, from which carrots get their color. So where are these chlorophyll located in the photosynthesis? Chloroplast, sites of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis occurs in chloroplast, which is an organelle in certain plants. All green plants have chloroplast and carry out photosynthesis. The part of the plants that have the most chloroplast are the leaves. The green color comes from the chlorophyll in the chloroplast, the pigments that absorbs light energy. Chloroplasts are the types of membrane-bound plastics derived from Greek words chloros, which means membrane, and embedded as a liquid matrix, the one who forms. And harbor the photosynthetic pigment called the one who forms green. Chlorophyll is contained in thylakoids. Stage 2, light-dependent reactions. After the capture of light energy, a series of chemical reactions takes place inside the chloroplast. A summary of this reaction is given below. So try familiarizing the chemical equation of photosynthesis. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of energy plus light energy will produce 1 molecules of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen gas. Steps in the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis. So what happens during the light-dependent reactions? Light-dependent reactions use energy from sunlight to produce oxygen and convert adenosine diphosphate and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate into the energy carriers ATP and NADPH. Step 1 of the light-dependent reactions. When a photon light strikes a molecule of photosynthesis 2, the light energy excites or boosts an electron out of a place to a higher energy level. This is called photoactivation. Step 2. The electron lost by the molecules of photosynthesis 2 is replaced by the electron extracted from a water molecule. As the water molecules split, a molecule of oxygen and hydrogen ions are released in the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so on step 1, when a photon or light energy strikes a molecule in photosystem 2, its electron will leave the photosystem 2. Then this electron that leave will be replaced by the electron from the water when the water molecules are split. So what is photosystem 2? The 2 electrons replace the high energy electrons that have been lost to the electrons transport chain. Oxygen is released into the air. This reaction is the source of nearly all of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. The hydrogen ions are released inside the thylakoids. Step 3. The energized electrons are shuttled from photosystem 2 across carrier molecules. These carrier molecules use the electron's energy to actively transport hydrogen ions from the stroma into the thylakoid membrane. Energy from the electrons is used by the proteins in the electron's transport chain to pump hydrogen ions from the stroma into the thylakoid space. The electron transport chain. At the end of the electron's transport chain, the electron will pass to photosystem 1. Then, step 4. Using the sun's energy, depleted electrons are re-energized in photosystem 1. The re-energized electrons are used to produce NADPH, a molecule that will later be used on glucose production. Photosystem 1. Because some energy has been used to pump hydrogen ions across the thylakoid membrane, electrons now do not contain as much energy as they used to when they reach the photosystem 1. Pigments in photosystem 1 use energy from the light to re-energize the electrons. Step 5. The higher hydrogen ion concentrations in the thylakoid space create a concentration gradient. Hydrogen ions diffuse back into the stroma through the membrane protein and adenosine triphosphate synthase. This process, which is similar to osmosis, is chemismosis. Step 6. The energy released by the hydrogen ions convert adenosine diphosphate to ATP or adenosine triphosphate and will be used in the next stage. Hydrogen ion movement and ATP formation. This gradient The difference in both charge and hydrogen ion concentration across the membrane provides the energy to make ATP. Hydrogen's ion cannot directly cross the thylakoid membrane. However, the thylakoid membrane contains a protein called ATP synthase that spans the membrane and allows hydrogen ions to pass through it. Powered by the gradient, hydrogen ions pass through the ATP synthase and force it to rotate. As it rotates, ATP synthase binds adenosine diphosphate and a phosphate group together to produce triphosphate or ATP. This process is called chemiosmosis, which enables light-dependent electron transport to produce not only NADPH but also ATP. Summary of the light-dependent reactions. Light-dependent reaction produce oxygen gas and convert ADP and NADphosphate into the energy carriers ATP and reduce NADP. ATP and NADPH provide the energy needed to build high-energy sugars from low-energy carbon dioxide. Light-independent reactions are the production of sugar. What happens during the light-dependent reactions? During the light-independent reactions, ATP and NADPH from the light-dependent reactions are used to produce high-energy sugar. During the light-independent reactions, commonly referred to as Calvin cycle, plant use the energy that ATP and NADPH contains to build stable high-energy carbohydrate compounds that can be stored for a long time. During this cycle, carbon dioxide enters. Carbon dioxide molecules enter the Calvin cycle from the atmosphere. An enzyme in the stroma of the chloroplast combines carbon dioxide molecules with 5 carbon compounds that are already present in the organelle, producing 3 carbon compounds that continue in the cycle. For every 6 carbon dioxide molecules that enter the cycle, a total of 12 3-carbon compounds are produced. Other enzyme in the chloroplast then converts the 3-carbon compounds into a high-energy forms in the rest of the cycle, using the energy from the ATP and high-energy electrons from the NADPH. Sugar production. At mid-cycle, 2 of the 12 3-carbon molecules are removed from the cycle. These molecules become the building blocks that the plant cell uses to produce sugar, lipids, amino acids, and other compounds. The remaining 10 3-carbon molecules are converted back into 6 5-carbon molecules that continue with 6 new carbon dioxide molecules to begin the next cycle. Summary of the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle uses 6 molecules of carbon dioxide to produce a single 6-carbon sugar molecule. The plant uses the sugars produced by the Calvin cycle to meet its energy needs and to build macromolecules needed for growth and development. When other organisms eat plants, they can use the energy and raw materials stored in these compounds. End result: the two sets of photosynthetic reactions work together. The light-dependent reactions, which traps the energy of sunlight in the chemical form, and the light-independent reactions, which uses that energy to produce stable high-energy sugars from carbon dioxide and water. In the process, animals, including humans, get foods and an atmosphere filled with oxygen. Factors affecting photosynthesis. So what are the factors that affects photosynthesis? Among the most important factors that affects photosynthesis are temperature, light intensity, and the availability of water. Temperature, light, and water. The reaction of photosynthesis are made possible by enzymes that function best between 0 degrees Celsius and 35 degrees Celsius. Temperatures above or below this range may affect those enzymes, slowing down the rate of photosynthesis or stopping it entirely. A high light intensity increases the rate of photosynthesis. After the light intensity reaches a certain level, however, the plant reaches its maximum rate of photosynthesis as it's seen in the graph. Because water is one of the raw materials in photosynthesis, a shortage of water can slow or even stop the photosynthesis. Water loss can also damage plant tissues. Plants that live in dry conditions often have waxy coatings on their leaves to reduce water loss. They may also have biochemical adaptations that make photosynthesis more efficient under dry conditions. Okay, so that ends our episode today. I hope that you learn how plants make their own food and how photosynthesis works. Again, this is Sir Eman of the Scientific Mind. See you on next episode.